Oh my God, you in Bahia,
So they say you're giving too much information. I am somewhere, somewhere.
and undisclosed location.
Exactly. How will this work? Do you know?
Um, I think we
We will
should
talk
talk
about everything
yeah,
and
everything.
the
Let's talk
books
about it. And the books.
and the books. Let's start by your book coming out in English right now. How is it?
Man, I have to say that was painful, but a beautiful pain, a
Okay.
beautiful pain because there is a difference, and we share the same editor, so that will be interesting. I hope she doesn't really, gets upset with us. But there is a difference between, I would say, Portuguese-speaking editors, um, not necessarily publishers. Publishers are a different conversation, but the editing process of a book. Um, the British or the English, they are quite precise and working on this dynamic between the reader and the audience. What's the difference between what a sentence, the impactful of a sentence, all those effects. And so I went through that process. So the editing process started by answering questions regarding, for example, in Portuguese literature, we are very comfortable with streams of conscience, long streams of conscience, pages and
Yeah.
pages of describing nothingness, yeah, describing the movement of this hand falling from my hand to the table. We can
They don't
they,
like that.
they don't like that. No way, that won't work. So I went through this process, which made me really think the book itself. So we reorganized certain things. The order, for example, like I had a lot of ellipses. I don't know if you say this
Hmm.
in English, but I was jumping back and forth in time. So they suggest that we use slightly more linear time to
Hmm.
help the reader to not for not make them get lost. And then of course
So they think the reader would get lost.
yeah, so we worked on on
Interesting.
on 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 rearranging a little bit, making a little bit more fluid time wise. That was a beautiful process for me because it made me rethink the book and even fall in love with the story again, which of course the book came out like 5 years ago, 6 years ago in Portugal. So that process was very, very beautiful. And also like that classical sentence that every publisher or editor tell us, like, show, don't tell, like that,
Hmm. Hmm.
that sweet spot of being more descriptive and showing the scene and not necessarily, immerse on the ads of the characters. So that process was quite intense, but Daniel, the translator, was very generous, and all the editors and the people doing the review, they were very generous with me. So I kind of felt like going into like the courses that you teach, like a creative writing courses, like like going back to the process of really building up a novel. So that was intense, painful, because it was frustrating, because you say like, man, I'm so far removed from this story. I wrote it came out in 5 years ago, but of course I was writing that 8 years before that release date. um, so it was interesting on that sense. you
Where,
you you,
where
you went
where
to the
does
same
it?
page.
Sorry, where
Sorry.
where did it get published first? This version of this English version, is this
In the UK, only in the UK.
in the UK? Okay,
Yeah,
but they
last month.
distribute or people can just buy from them?
They are distributing. The book is available in Nairobi. I
Okay,
saw it
okay,
already.
that's good. That's good.
Cheche
That's
has that.
good.
Yeah,
So it's there already.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And 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 I'm going to
I
Ghana next.
think, yeah, I think it's an interesting process. I don't know what people who originally write in English feel, but I think we feel that there's a slightly different way, a relationship between I mean, some of the things are interesting in terms of editing. The way the questions they bring to the book, it's different from the questions a Brazilian editor would bring, no, would make. I think in Portugal and Brazil, it's kind of the same. Which, as you say, as you were saying, I don't know. It looks like it's a different planet. You know, they are
Absolutely.
always asking, yes, but what's the plot? What's the plot? It's a, what's the plot? No, I'm writing a book. Yes, but what's the plot? No, and that kind of things that you say, that sometimes they would say, why do you take so long in this paragraph, or you know? And for us, it's just natural. No, I think
Yeah, yeah.
um, different
And
approach.
again, which make me question, because if you see the lifestyle of a British, you know, like at 5 p.m. he goes to a pub, grabs a beer, and just, you know, talk bullshit
Grabs
with
14 beers.
absolutely,
Uh-huh.
and talks bullshit. So they have these streams of conscience that we also have, but I don't
Mhm.
know why when it comes to put that into a story, into a novel, they get anxious. And the other day I
Yeah.
was scrolling on social media, and I heard this guy. I think he's a comedian, but he was
Mhm.
explaining the the difference between amapiano and Afro piano, which is I don't know if you're familiar. Amapiano, the South African house music.
No,
It's
I am
getting
not.
very popular in the
Maybe
continent.
I've heard it, but I don't know exactly what it is.
I'm
Uh-huh.
sure you heard before. So you have Amapiano, which has a really like introduction. Yeah. So the song has this build up, comes with the piano, you know, like really sounds, and then goes like 8 bars, 16 bars, like 1 minute introduction, 1 minute and a half introduction. Yeah. And then uh Afro piano, which is Nigerians kind of just taking over as they do. The Nigerians love the sound of Amapiano, and they are creating a subgenre within Amapiano, which, man, like 1, 2 bars, but like uh, no introduction,
And
not that build
it
up,
goes.
slowly build up, going to the song. They just go directly. So maybe that's which is quite interesting, uh, because I will not say this is a British thing, because you know British presence in South Africa was also massive. But I'm asking myself, this anxiousness, you know, this eager to get straight to the point, has a cultural aspects attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like also like you know, we in Portugal we have the cantada, you know, like the bater o coro alguém, you
Mm-hmm.
know, which
Mm-hmm.
is how do we translate this into English? It's not
Yeah,
flirting.
that's
It's not necessarily flirting though. It's like
no,
it's when
no.
you actually go to someone and you basically, you know, deliver your case. Yeah, you
Yeah,
try
yeah.
to get with someone romantically, and in the Portuguese culture, and I include Angola, Brazil, definitely, the cantada, bater o coro, is very important. Probably is what will define the course of the relationship. Like I think it's courting, you know, like when you,
Exactly. That would be, yeah, some sort of courting. Yes.
yeah. So the introduction, you need the introduction. You know, you need to build your case and lay down what intentions you have with that story. But they don't want that. They want straight to the, okay, let's go, like Tinder.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
not that
Listen,
I'm
are
in
you
Tinder
reading the
though.
comments? Are you
No, I'm
reading the
not reading
comments
comments.
from
I'm not
Cheche
reading
Books?
comments.
He-
I'm not reading the
First he
comments.
said, I'm a piano is already annoying as it is. Then he said, why don't Nigerians jump on? And then he says, no, not these two absolutely making Anglophone literature sound bland.
Okay.
If you want to comment on that. No,
No, no, no.
I think it's a different approach, but I must confess that it's something that it's not easy for me. I must tell you. For example, when we present um, a short story, and people, I feel, I understand that they would prefer a short story where something very practical happens, and sometimes by we I mean a lot. It's just a different way of approaching. A short story could be, and I like it when it's about nothing. Of course,
Yeah,
it cannot be about nothing. Probably there's something going on, but you could do like this description of, let's say, the end of an afternoon in Luanda, in Angola, in Mozambique, in Cape Verde. Let's put Cape Verde, right? So you could do that without what's happening exactly. What's happening, it's a feeling. It's nothing is happening. People are coming, people are waiting, people are drinking. Of course, I know there are better written stories and not so well written stories, but the thing with the English publishers, either English from England or American or Canada, they would always go, but yeah, but what's going on, what's the plot,
yeah.
no? And I it's strange really. But it's cultural, probably, no? It's a
I think
difference.
it's a culture thing. So we are saying all that to say that the process of publishing in English, it's a completely new process. Yeah, for me, I'm
Yeah,
discovering the book. I'm reigniting my relationship with this work, which is wonderful. I even like um, timing wise and in the context of today, which is very interesting because the book as migration as the backbone of the story. Yeah.
it's always
And
modern. It's going to be modern for the next 200 years.
absolutely,
Contemporary. Hmm.
this is absolutely the topic that is affecting all of us at the moment. Like I think we all saw images from the Ukrainian war when the African students were trying to, go to a
Yeah.
safer location. Uh, the tragedies on the Mediterranean Sea never stop. And of course, also, I think recently the prime minister, which is a brown man, a person of color, of course, coming from Boris Johnson sounds like, okay, we can expect that from him. But coming from a person of color, it's different, like you really see, oh man, my God, they really mean it,
Yeah.
somehow
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
meaningful because if you have a brown person really dropping like what it is, no, sorry, if you come here, we're gonna deport you to Rwanda. That's it. Done deal. There's no
It's
there's no
so
turning.
strange. It's so strange. And also, it's strange because if it was a very, very good place, they would not deport them there, right? Then no one says, if you come here, we will send you to Switzerland. Don't come here. If you come here, we will give you universities in Toronto, in Canada. You will stay there and you will have to study.
Yeah,
No, no
yeah,
one says that. Well, yeah, it's a complicated because during the war, at the beginning of the war, everyone in Europe was offering themselves to receive Ukrainian refugees, but just Ukrainians. So those guys coming from Africa in the ships and in the boats and in the cannons, tiny boats to Europe, sometimes 100 people, sometimes 200 people, no place for them. So it is what it is. There's not even a way of saying in another way. It is what it is. They
yeah,
offer. I remember Italy offered 500,000 places to Ukrainians. 500,000, 500,000 places. So can you get some of those 200, 500 people coming by boat?
yeah. So
Complicated. But
yes.
how is it going? Do you have a notion? Have you been feeling in England, English
Yeah,
readers maybe?
it came a month away, so that's quite recently. I hope people are
Yeah,
reading it. Uh,
yeah, yeah.
I got some great feedback from booksellers, which is always important. So the reader itself, that's very recent. So
Okay.
I'm going to the UK end of September, and we will do an event. So hopefully I will meet the readers then and see what people are
Yeah.
talking. But I had also very good interviews with journalists, especially Nigerians though. And they were
Oh,
shocked. They were shocked when I start talking about Kuduro and Kizomba. They never heard. Like again,
oh,
it's not a surprise. You never heard about my piano neither. So fair enough.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Fair enough. But it's so interesting for me, like the fact that the book is introducing a new music genre
To other places, exactly. Yeah, or
other
other
places.
cultures, exactly.
So this is very exciting, like the fact that
It will not be
especially
the case in England, though. I think in England, I mean, in
no,
US, for example, people are learning to dance kizomba or whatever they call it
yeah,
when
yeah,
they learn it
yeah,
there.
absolutely.
But they are interested, no?
Yeah, but I had two conversations with two Nigerian journalists. They made incredible interviews, great reviews, because there's a different when an African is making you
An
questions,
African guy.
like
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
there's absolutely a difference. For example, right now, I feel like I'm just in a bar. Too bad I'm not drinking anything more.
I'm drinking water,
But
so
yeah,
it's just water.
me too. But that's the thing though, like because the book is already out there. I don't think I have to say anything to convince anyone to read. If you are
Yeah,
interested in
yeah,
stories of migration, if you are willing to know something about a music genre, and not only just a music genre, we're talking about a culture movement. I don't stress enough. I'm advocating for kizomba, which is this ball dancing close to
yeah,
rumba
yeah.
tango that we have in Angola. But I'm a strong advocating for that because I said that in a couple of interviews already. Uh, when we saw the diaspora, the African diaspora, the Angolan diaspora, let's say Portuguese-speaking diaspora in Portugal, and I believe that's also common with other African diasporas around the world. Usually these people, when they get to their new countries, the new homes, uh, they start on the bottom of the pyramid, yeah, the social pyramid.
Totally.
And
Mm-hmm.
the jobs are usually either constructions, cleaning, restaurants. Jobs that force you because you probably live far, far, far away from your job. So you have to take maybe 2, 3 buses, wake up at 5 a.m. And so that scenario is very familiar with any African citizen that
Yeah, yeah,
moves out of their home country. So with also talking people, that probably, when they on their home countries, they had a story, they had a name because they were known that community. So when people saw someone passing, oh, this is so and so, they give you a good morning or a good evening, whatever the case may be. Yeah. So you have these people living on those conditions. Somehow, like they wake up not talking to anyone, they get in the bus, not talking to anyone. They get to their job, sometimes not talking to anyone. So no one knows their
yeah,
name.
yeah,
They don't hear their name in the street. And suddenly comes
yeah.
Friday, he gets his best Sunday clothes, gets his best shoes, and go out to meet people, other people like him or other people that enjoy that culture,
And to meet his own culture, his or her
Exactly.
culture.
And,
Mm-hmm.
and somehow he regained his dignity, he regained his sense of self. Uh, and more important about Kizomba, which differs a little bit from other music genres that I love. I love Afrobeats, I love Amapiano, I love hip hop, I love everything that Africans across the globe produce. But the thing about Kizomba, though, Probably we find that in the Caraibas, in the Caribbeans, Cubans, Colombians, and stuff like that. The thing about dancing together, it gives you an effect when you are on the diaspora, like
Oh,
working
it
your
gives
ass
you an effect when you dance together.
more. I'm
That's
talking like
the,
on a really
okay.
like brother to sister level, like brother
Okay,
to brother
okay,
level, doesn't matter.
okay, okay.
But you embrace other person, yeah. You have this like the contact with other human being, like this
And you go
gives
together, no? You go together at
yeah
the
this
same.
this yeah this is nurturing, yeah. You really feed your soul to face another week of hardship, another week of hard ship. So I found this culture, it's not just a musical genre. I emphasize that
I
it's a
understand. I
culture
understand.
thing. Yeah. So this book tries to pay homage to that, like it was our survival mechanism. Yeah, like for many of
Yeah.
us, from the Rotterdamese, for example, like how many people came with just their uh, clothes on their backs, fleeing from a civil war that broke in Angola and got to Portugal. Man, like I'm not judging anybody. I'm not judging anything. I'm just talking about human beings, like and the need to be connected with something. And music gave that. Kizomba
Yeah,
gives that.
and it's the condition of migration is actually the fact that uh, until the day where you can build another home for you, you don't know where you are in terms of home. You are not at home. That's one thing. So you have all the difficulties, job, money, sometimes language, which is not yours. But most of all, you are out of context as a human being. Now I'm saying, as a human being, you are not at home. And I think, and I'm saying this because I think your book manages also to talk about this as a proposal to understand how music, exactly as you were saying, how music, it's not only music, it's a place. Sometimes music and dance, it's the simulation of home. It's the simulation of being at home. Also, some people, our viewers might not know that sometimes you have people like coming from Angola or Mozambique or Cape Verde. And when they meet in all those countries, or for example, in the diaspora in Lisbon, in Portugal, they sometimes use kizomba or passado or whatever to dance together. And so it's another way, it's not a translation in terms of language, because we all more or less understand each other in terms of Portuguese, but it's a language, a common language. Kizomba might be also a common language, which now it's also bringing so many Portuguese learned Kizomba, so many Americans learned Kizomba. So that's interesting too, no? Because it's
Yeah.
somehow it's um it's a place where you see
Mhm.
kizomba, not only a music as in a place. And I think your book tells that in a very interesting way. Also, you did an interesting mix between your own story, your own steps, musical and cultural steps above all. So yeah, I think it's what you're saying, that they don't know. It's good if they don't know, they will get to know now. So it's interesting if you don't know, as I didn't know Amapiano. So Afro piano, it's the other thing, right?
Is the
It's the
Nigerian version of it.
Nigerian thing. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I know that your book now in Cheche bookstore, it's in number one. It's their top 50, and your book is number one. So how
Oh,
do
but
you feel
well,
about that?
oh my
Yes, they just
God,
they just telling me that.
I'm
It's
humbled.
just for a couple of hours, but we might just,
Yeah,
I'm paying
I'm
people to buy the
okay.
book
So
all the time. So
let me drop my speech then. First of all, I would like to thank me.
you are waiting for the real time to say that, right? You are waiting. Second, you gotta thank Snoop Dogg because he gave us that
Yeah,
that line,
man,
right?
that's perfect. I love that line, man. I
Okay,
love that line.
okay.
Well, like if I believe me, it's better that they never give me a prize, because if they give me a prize, I will
You
bring
will
that.
go
I will.
there. Oh man, that's so beautiful. And he's so funny.
Man.
We might ask people around here in our meeting, if you have questions, please let us know. I think you can use here the chat. I don't know how this works, that thing with the hand. I think there is always something with the hand, but they can just
Right here on the
write
on the
questions
chat.
there
Yeah,
while we're still going. But you are somewhere in the world writing. Are you writing, working on a new project? Is it literature, music, both? What is it?
yeah.
Can you tell us?
I can tell. I don't mind. I don't have secrets. People need to know where I am. No, like I have
Okay,
three babies, so they need to know where their father are. So I'm
okay,
writing short stories at the moment. I would love. I never release any short story book, which is quite tough though. Like to condense and be able to talk about nothing,
to
because I also
tell.
love this literary genre. Write about
Yeah,
nothing.
nothing.
Is
It's
my
very good. It's very good.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
It's something in
So
Angola we also do in the streets and in our life, right? In our daily life,
yeah,
we also do that.
yeah. So I'm working on that, and also, I feel like I need to come up with a novel, because the pandemic was not helpful for me. I didn't wrote anything during the pandemic, which was also nice because I was able to focus on the translation and the editing process of the English translation.
Version,
Uh,
yeah.
but I'm kind of like doing research, reading some stuff, listening to some stuff, because the next novel per se, I have a character that is a rapper, so I'm listening a lot
Okay.
of Angolan rap, because I feel like Angolan rap is the place, not only because of language though. I think it's the place where we are Angolans are experimenting the most when it comes to language.
Okay.
It's a place that is quite interesting because it's alive. It's too bad because I feel like when I'm listening to some of them, I say like, man, those guys are novelists. They are writers. Like with the full
Great
sense of the
ideas.
word,
Yeah.
great ideas, like and the rhythm that they use to spit their verses are so beautiful. So I'm immersed in the world of battle rap. Yeah, like there is a movement called Reis do Rompimento. Man, I
Yeah.
love those guys. Like so, and also I feel like they do the most honest social commentaries. Yeah, they don't necessarily
No
try,
filters or
no filters, and they don't pinpoint history. Yeah, they might talk about MPLA and UNITA on the same verse, praising and bashing the two groups, which is somehow forbidden. In our world, we cannot make jokes and make fun of our
yeah.
politicians. So it's very interesting for me to see people using humor freely. Like of course comedians do. We have professional comedians that do that very well, but somehow those guys are already big in the society, so they are famous, so they're somehow untouchable, sort of. I'm putting a lot of commas here. But when I listen to this generation, the fact that they are you know talking about themselves, talking about society, and laughing about it, I think it's so important to use humor. Like Africans need humor as a survival kit. So my idea of a novel will go towards that idea in the future. I think we have
Okay.
questions coming
Okay.
up.
We have two questions here, at least. Yeah. Do you want to read them or?
Uh,
I think the second one, I must say, I mean, if anyone here doesn't know, he says, "KalaF, what is this about you trying to buy Lisbon for half price?" It's related to a book, a title of a book that KalaF has, where, it would be, how would you translate that title, KalaF? The Angolan?
who bought Lisbon at half the price?
Yeah, yeah.
It's a collection of again a genre that I'm very fan of, which is chronica. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like short essays, not so in depth, because we don't really try to build a case. Sometimes it's also about nothing. But I love this genre, and I wrote for many years in newspapers. So that's a collection of those essays, and then this fancy title. just follows this movement of Angolans, empresarios, that went to Portugal to buy all the major companies.
Yeah, there was this period of time where Angolans, I
Yeah,
mean, certain Angolans were buying
yeah,
lots of things and properties and companies, no?
yeah, and somehow we there is maybe you can help me since you are Angolan. There is this saying, like levar a fama sem o proveito.
No, I can't help you on that.
So I was
Yeah.
getting somehow the accolades and
Oh, you as Angolan, you mean?
as an Angolan, yeah,
Ah,
general.
oh
Every
yes,
time I
yes,
enter in
that
a
would
room, they say,
happen.
"Oh, you
Yeah,
Angolans are buying Portugal. You Angolans are
yeah,
doing
yeah, yeah.
reverse colonialism and stuff like that."
Colonization, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
That would be.
but like, okay, I was an Angolan, but I was not getting the goods out of the out of that transition, you know. So
Anyway, you
this
were
is
getting something. You were getting something.
yeah. So I was getting the
The other
fame.
question
Yeah.
from Cheche is interesting. You says, White Can Dance 2 is based off of your experiences, and one would think that a memoir would have been a fitting format to tell your story. So, what then influenced your decision to make it a novel instead? I'm not sure I agree with this, but maybe you can
Yeah.
tell exactly
I
what happened. Do you think it's just fiction, or it's between a memoir and a novel, as in?
I would use a fancier word, which is, the autofiction. I think that suits is a genre that somehow became very popular in the last 10 years, I would say.
Mhm.
Um, but the reason why I did that is because I felt somehow the need of telling about a musical genre that was not used and were not present in the conversations in the large literary circles. We were not talking about Angolan culture, or let's say
Yeah.
Afro-Portuguese speaking culture on that sense. Of course, we had our writers, we had our filmmakers, we had our musicians, but we never really spend time understanding why we do things in a certain way. Like again, like we started our conversation about talking about these culture differences, like the fact that we love to describe a sunset and dedicated one chapter to that. And even here in Bahia, I find it really so nice. When people go to see the sunset, it's kind of like a culture thing. They go to see the sunset. In the end, they clap.
They wait for that moment, and then
Yeah,
when the sun goes down, they clap.
yeah, it's so
We do
beautiful.
that in Rio as well. You think so?
Yeah, I
What
find
does
it
it make you
beautiful.
feel? Why? I think
It's
you
like
think they're
it's
celebrating,
yeah, it's thanking for another day, another circle, yeah, a
and they're
cycle.
also
So
thanking because it's beautiful. No, I think
because it's
it's like
beautiful.
amazing. Hmm.
Yeah, it's a show, like
Yeah, yeah.
nature is giving
Nature is
that performance.
performing a show.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
man, I found it that great. That to say, I found it I needed to talk about these music genre. And the fact that I was an actor within that music genre, it helped. I think would be like, I felt like, okay, it's useful. I can use the story of this guy. No one really knows him, KalaF, who is this guy. So I could use that and twist here and there to make it interesting. But on the process of writing that, I discovered that the most difficult thing is to tell the truth, for a writer. Yeah. To talk about people that exist,
Okay.
to take
You
to
say,
take
no,
to
I'm
talk.
laughing because for other people, that's not the hardest part. But for us, sometimes it's the hardest part. It's.
Yeah, it's like, to write about reality stuff, like and I was getting concerned, oh, what my mother will think. Like, for example, in the book, I kill all my brothers, all my siblings. I'm
Yeah.
I'm my only child. It's not true. But I was getting caught up with that. And to be honest, the reason why I just removed them out of the history is because I didn't want to go on those family dinners and try to explain, oh, why you put me on such a light? Why you didn't put me like with a six pack or anything like that? I didn't want to go to get into those conversations. So I removed them out of the story. And then
Okay.
within that process, I felt like, man, I cannot talk about Kuduro without talking about Kizomba. Is a disservice to the genre, because I think Kuduro is a child of Kizomba. It got nurtured within the Kizomba space. So I felt, okay, it's important to highlight and talk about Kizomba. So then I was already entering on a new territory. Yeah. And then I felt like I needed an antagonist to my character. So then I decided to have the policeman also as a character, as part of the story. So that was basically the reason why I decided to do the way I did it. Yeah. I don't know if I answered the question.
Yes, there is another question from Gisela. She wants to know where, are you reading that, the comments there? Can you repeat me which city will they happen? I'm not sure if it's already.
London. London for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, London for sure. We'll start it there. And then I will schedule something.
Did you sign copies of Foil Sharing Crossroads?
I did. Foils were really, really kind to me. They did a review that was best of like so many reviews. Because also, like, I was starting, just to clarify here, I love English editors. Like I learned a lot within this process, because the reason why I say that is when you start reading the reviews, they are then more precise and focused, because you don't give them really too much space to rambling around. So that's beautiful in that sense, like you somehow end up being able to have discussions about the book that I don't know, like, for example, in Portugal, I don't know about you, Ondjaki, you are also a great writer. Like, when you are talking about your novels with critics or journalists in Portugal, you feel like they get you, or when the translation comes along, somehow, because you are somehow like forced to condense the story and clarify certain things, the points became really clear. The ideas that the novel is trying to portray.
You mean to yourself or to them?
Yeah, like I feel like the reviews that I got in English so far, it really pinpoints, for example, the aspect of migration that the book has, and in Portugal was not present when I was.
Well, what I think is that sometimes with the critic or journalists in Portugal, sometimes they go where they want to go, and not they don't go where your book went. I mean, I can pick up your book and talk about lots of things. What I should not do is not talk about some things, and sometimes if you are first, in Portugal, we have a colonized, ex-colonized relationship with Portugal. So that might, some things might be said this way or that way by us or by them. And I think sometimes you go to these cultures and you find some sort of almost a relationship which is more about literature, and it's not ever only about literature when we're talking to Portugal or Brazil or Cape Verde. Among us, there is always historical things. I think there should be with England too, as in the continent, the European continent, but some people don't feel like that. So also what you said about the publishers, same for the journalists. Let's say England, United States, even Canada, they have more critics than Portugal, for example, and much more than in our countries, for example, which is very rare to have a very good, a very serious critic, review, I think. Review, because, I think it's, say, I like the book, I don't like the book. It's okay, but why? Why did you like the book? Why did you not like the book? Can you do a review without going there? Does like, not like? You know, you can do other things just other than saying I did like or I did not like. So let's give the sound to Tibian because he wants to make a question. Is that okay for you? I'll
Absolutely.
just turn on. Go on, please. Tibian, go on.
I think we lost Tibian.
Tibian. No, his mic is on. Are you there?
I think is muted. I see. He's here.
No, I'm trying to unmute.
Tibian, how are you?
There is
A delay.
a delay, maybe. No, he said hold on. It's okay.
Okay.
We have like 8-10 minutes more. But yeah, we can maybe he's just getting a better sound.
Are you working on something new? Ondjaki?
I am wait, sorry, Tibian. I will not run away from that question. Tibian, we cannot listen to you. No, you are unmuted, but we do not have your sound. He says he can't hear us. No, we don't have your sound, Tibian.
Tibian, just write.
Yeah, maybe you.
Yeah.
I think he cannot even listen. No, that's what he's saying, or
I will tell Tibian.
maybe. No, I'm finishing. Not finishing. Sorry, I'm starting something, but it takes me a while to prepare. I think it's something a little bit more complicated. So I'm still preparing. What will come, but I need to stop and find some time to write. I need to do what you did, Nils. Go to a place and stay at least for 2 months. If not, it's complicated. Steven is connecting to audio. Maybe now.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Finally. How are you guys?
I'm good. Thank you.
It's always incredible talking or listening to writers, because I'm from Sudan and there is a current war happening. And I'm also creative. I'm a painter. And it's been like, the reason why I couldn't write my question is I held on to what KalaF said earlier about the anxiousness of getting to the point. And I feel like this is what's been personally happening to me. And if I could say to all of the Sudanese, and maybe even the creators or the ones that are trying to say the truth. And then at one point, I'm not sure which one, either KalaF or on that, please, if I'm saying your name wrong, I apologize. Ondjaki. And
it's okay.
Something about what's happening now is that feeling is what's happening. And earlier on, I've heard because lately I've just in the process of I'm trying to put words onto the feelings. That's what's happening with war, disruption, the displacement, just the utter shatterness. And I was watching this interview by Zadie Smith, and she just said something so wonderful. It's like we are in the business of the soul and the business of feelings. And your book highlights, like dignity and the sense of self through music or through the togetherness, yeah, and the need for celebration. And it's quite, let me say, is it irony, or is it, the opposite of irony, that we want to make sense or make sense of things through celebration, although as I am personally affected by this, which is absolutely the exact opposite of celebration. And I think the reason why I'm not understanding and I'm not able to express fully and truthfully is because there was at one point that I would speak about the struggle, the African struggle or the personal struggle or the Sudanese struggle through that lens of togetherness and celebration. But when it's war, you can't see the celebration. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, that, and even like the idea of clapping through for the sunset, you know,
Mhm.
is it a celebration, or is it just the gratitude, or is it just the presence, you know, the awareness of being present in yourself?
Mhm.
And I think I just want to hear more of that, of, you know, I want you to to emphasize more on celebration through shatteredness, migration and displacements and war, and, you know, just the intensity of how, you know, the world is going. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Tibian. It's really touching what you just shared with us. I really, not just because myself and Ondjaki, we went through a civil war as well in our country that took many lives. We're still dealing with the consequences of that. So I sympathize. I really know exactly what you meant. Even like with all the words that want to be said here, I think we Africans, we are very versed, yeah, very aware. We are experts on silence. Silence as a language. Yeah, I think we know that very well. So presence, the presence of our bodies, the breathing, this is something that as artists we need to capture, we need to emphasize, because we're talking not only the fact that our people, our continent were, still is to this present day, suffering erasure. We paint this terrible scene that humans somehow I condemn to indulge, which is kill the other, erase the other. I feel like this is something that art somehow has the responsibility of addressing, because we're talking about memory, we're talking about the preservation of language, of ways of being, the dance, the cook. Someone needs to narrate that. Someone needs to put this and save it for the next generations. Like many times, I think like all the writers here listening to us understand that when we are building a novel, like the research is as important as the writing. And sometimes when we research within our cultures, we end up having to connect and fictionalize a lot, because there are so many gaps between a storyline, because we cannot go that far from our grandfathers and mothers. There are gaps in between our existence. So I feel like the resilience, of a laughter, the resilience of dancing. I always pay attention to children in war times, because they teach us so much.
Yes.
Like a children will be always a child. The children will be always children, despite bombs falling. The fear is there, the pain is there, but they will remain who they are, who they truly are. I think that's something that we need to hold on into that. Yeah, the joy of living has to be present despite our surroundings. The joy of being connected to you, even when you are on a sail by yourself. Like I read so much of our writers, like many of them were in jail during our independence war and fight, and they managed to write still, and I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful of Soinka being able to write in jail, to Gugi, like so many of them, that wrote in, like, despite the most terrible conditions they were in, when there were no hope whatsoever, they still created something. Not because of their present. I think that present somehow was helpless for them, but they knew that someone will read those things. Someone will get those words in the future. I don't know if Jackie would like to add something.
Yes, please.
No, it's I think it's very hard to sometimes be on that place of writing or telling stories while other people from our country or from our culture or from our continent is still suffering with war, right?
Yeah.
I understand that. And sometimes there are days where you have not that many things to give, which is the same as there are days where you cannot smile with so many things you are, testifying, let's say, no? But, well, the sunset that KalaF was talking about is in a very specific place in Salvador, Bahia, right? In Brazil. But I like that idea of sometimes, if we can, being able to still tell stories, although there are that's beautiful. I feel that in the general of our continent, no matter the struggle, and in the end of the day, someone will tell you a story. Not necessarily a book, not necessarily an album or a music album, but a story. Someone will have. It's like the last treasure, the last resort. In the end of the day, you have nothing, but you have one tiny story to tell someone. I don't think that it justifies or goes to. It's not disrespectful to tell a good story while many serious things are happening. That's what I think. I think stories are part of our culture, and it's part of our tenderness. The way sometimes we can be tender towards a grandson or a grandfather or a grandmother. Sometimes it's to tell a story. I remember, for example, when we were kids, sometimes there are problems and you tell a story pretending that the problem doesn't exist. And the old guy, not the old guy, who's telling the story knows that the problems are still there. Who's listening the story also knows, but for a brief moment, they're not pretending. They are allow themselves to be in a space where stories can have. By stories, I mean tales, not history. I think that's instrumento, uma capacidade.
The capacity is.
Yeah, we are able to do that. It's something positive. It's not just anything. But yeah. Where are you living now, Tibian? Where are you staying?
I'm currently, I am based in Nairobi, but I'm currently in the UAE to meet my dad and my mom. They were flying, they flew, like they managed to, what's the word? There are so many terms for what's happening. I don't even know the actual word, but they managed to leave the Khartoum, the city, the capital of Sudan, and join here in the UAE. So,
have you met them, or are you going to meet them?
I did, yeah.
That's a story, right? You just smile. I can't see you, but I can hear you.
That's a story. It's been crazy because I've always been someone that loves reading because when you paint, it's a muted words, yeah. But when you read, it's more aloud in your head, and because of what's happening lately, things were loud and not clear, and words and stories and tales did not make sense to my actual reality. And it has reached a point where this identity that I have, which is expressing, was shaken. For example, what will a painting do at this moment? It created that doubt as well. As what war happened, war, that's I think one of the fundamentals of war is creating terror, and then shifting your actual identity that you knew. and then that doubt that happens after that. So it was driving me nuts, honestly. It was driving me nuts. And it was driving me, I don't know if that's the word, nutser or crazier, that I could not find words or stories or that actually matches the frequency that I am in now. You know, I don't want to hear.
But sometimes what you yourself have against a war, it's the ability to paint one painting, and that's not small. You know what I mean? I know I'm not saying that you are able to paint in every moment, but when you ask, so what's a painting? What's a drawing? What's a poem? When a war is going on, sometimes it's what we have. It's the last resort of your freedom, of your human beingness, to be able to paint something. No, if you can, I'm just saying, don't doubt that. Try not to doubt that, because that's what war wants you to become silent. No,
100%.
That's what we call resistance. You know, like I'm in Brazil, in a place that has the most, the largest population of African descent here in Brazil, in Salvador, and again, you know, like when I hear their stories, it breaks my heart. It really does, you know, like because everything that somehow in Africa we are so far removed, you know, like you know, the erasure of someone's name, someone's religion, is very clear here. Yeah, it's very present, and in some parts of this country, a young man, every 23 minutes, a young man is killed. A black young man is killed. So it's also in war, you know. It's not a war as in Sudan or in Ukraine or in many places in the world, but the number of casualties that this country has are comparable to many.
Specifically for black people, it's terrible. Yeah.
So and still, you know, they reserve that somehow it's even kind of challenging. Their happiness, you know, is not every time. You know, there's hard times most of the times, but the fact that they reserve that rebellious act of happiness is something that is teaching us so much. I every time I'm here, I'm humbled, with the fact that I see people, you know, and my country is also going into a lot of troubles. Don't get me wrong, there are troubles everywhere, but I find myself really humbled by, you know, the power of human beings, you know, like of fighting through pain. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Tibian.
guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tibian, especially for sharing, for being here also, but for sharing. Thank you, everyone. We are about to close this moment, this window. We all, how many few or many that we are, it's important to share these readings. When we read African authors, it's important to share either with other African authors or with anyone from any other cultural background. But congratulations for one more book in English, KalaF. Congratulations. Do you want to give us your last words? These are my last words for today.
Yeah, I will be in Nairobi mid-October. I think I'm arriving at 17 or 18. Please, someone tell me the name of the festival, because my mind is now with Tibian. Macondo, please.
Oh, it's the Macondo Festival. Okay.
Yeah.
Where is it? Is it September?
October, somewhere. No, September.
October.
September 17. I'm arriving 17th of September for Macondo. So I will be there. So please show up. It will be beautiful. We can talk more. We can drink a proper beer. For the ones that drink beers, you know, like let's not Tea works just fine as well. I appreciate tea. And then I will be in Ghana and with Chike and a bunch of my favorite African authors.
I
Like,
hear there's gonna be more than one Angolan author in Ghana, but maybe it's just a rumor.
yeah,
Maybe.
so I'm really happy for that. I'm happy the fact that this book finally is getting me closer to my brothers and sisters in the continent. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
That's it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ondjaki.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations, KalaF. And you can find a copy of Whites Can Dance to at Cheche for 2,100. And also a copy of Transparent City by Ondjaki at 2,100 as well. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.